New explosive leak. Also, this chick has more than one picture. I mean, when I do videos about Sweet Baby Inc., all you gotta do is go to Google, type in Kim Belair, and there you go. I try not to use the same one because, yeah, but like the one that you clicked on, probably way different than what you're seeing. But explosive leaked clips confirm Sweet Baby Inc. pressured developers to submit to narrative demands. You don't say. In a revelation that confirms years of speculation, a leaked clip from a Sweet Baby Inc. internal discussion has surfaced showing narrative designer Cameron Wild. That's a weird way of spelling Cameron. Describing how a development studio was repeatedly pressured into changing the identity of its characters until it relented. The footage, exposed by Master of the TDS and Writing Raven of Gothic Therapy, provides the clearest evidence yet that Sweet Baby Inc.'s narrative consulting process involves far more than creative guidance for developers. It involved calculated emotional and ideological pressure.
You've heard the sound bites.
Go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
And if I can't sell them on, hey, don't do that, I can instill fear by suggesting that once it gets past us, someone else will take them down for this.
For years, Kim Belair and Sweet Baby Inc. called it branding. Cheeky, disruptive, harmless, right? But today, we're done pretending. Because now we have the receipts. A leaked clip from a real internal discussion where Sweet Baby Inc. didn't advise, they pushed again and again until the studio broke. This isn't narrative design, it's narrative domination. And this time, no spin can save them.
So of course it's going to be very like over the top for the most part. A lot of like bold words that are meant to really instill feelings in ya. But you know, we know they've been doing this. And the worst part is these companies hire them. But then those companies, their games never sell. They end up going out of business. And what happens to Sweet Baby Inc.? Nothing, because they've already been paid. So you have all these people, all these good people who are just going in trying to do their job. They're getting fired. Studios are closing down. While Sweet Baby Inc., nothing. Nothing happens because they've already been paid. Not once have you heard of, oh, Sweet Baby Inc. having to let go of this many people. No. No, every time you hear something, it's about some company that they worked with that now has to lay off good people, or a company that's now a studio closing down because they can't keep themselves open because their game didn't sell, because they wanted to work with Sweet Baby Inc., who clearly does not care. They don't care about making a good story. Their whole purpose is to insert DEI. Their diverse characters are just... They're superficial. There's nothing substantial to them. There's no depth to them. There's no emotional connection to them. It's like, oh yeah, let's make a black character. Oh, okay. What's the character gonna be like? Well, what do you mean? They're black. That's about as deep as it goes. Black characters are black. Gay characters are gay. You know, you're always gonna see the super flamboyant gay man. Ooh, because apparently all men are you know, all gay men are super flamboyant, because apparently there's no such thing as a masculine gay man. You know, black people, you know, black women are always portrayed as loud and sassy and you know, put them white people in their place. You know, they're always stereotypes. They're always badly written because they don't care about telling a good story. They don't care about actual diversity. They just want less white people. It's as simple as that.
Hello. What is going on, everybody? It is Master of the TDS, and I'm joined by my lovely wife.
Writing Raven.
welcome back to the channel.
Before we jump in, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because when we say you'll want to be here for the next one, we mean it.
Today's leak isn't theory. It isn't out of context. This is Sweet Baby Inc. admitting on camera that they wore a game studio down on purpose. You know the quotes. Terrify your marketing team, instill fear. People said it was just Kim being spicy.
But this time, it's not Kim. It's Cameron Wild, Sweet Baby's narrative designer, Kim's ally, Kim's employee.
Yeah, I actually talked about that guy too. Yeah. Like whenever people were starting to talk about him. Yeah, I talked about him.
And the same person who once said, I'm here to burn it all down. Totally normal, healthy consulting energy, right?
But this time, it's not branding. It's not cheeky. In this leaked clip, Cameron admits to hammering a studio again and again and again until they caved.
Not persuaded, not enlightened, broken.
This isn't narrative guidance. This is brute force submission. And once you hear it, you'll realize this isn't an exception. It's the playbook.
Roll the clip.
And definitely there have been moments. I can think of one in particular. Don't need to get into the specifics of the game, but it was a situation where the identity of the characters was fairly important that we get it right. And in this situation, we actually had to have a more heart-to-heart, really foundational conversation about these are some of the experiences that you are necessarily going to invoke, or some of the messages that you are going to invoke, some of the implications you are going to invoke, regardless of whether you want to or not. It's not a question of like, are you doing it well? Are you doing it badly? It's just, it's there. And so here are the options for how that could go. And this was a pretty, I would say, like unique situation where they were willing to take days out of their time to talk with us about it. And I think in that situation, it was, as a marginalized person, I felt making myself very vulnerable, and being brutally honest of just like, hey, I think what you're doing is not cool. And then being met with a less than optimal response to that, and then having to say it again, and then again and again. What I would take out of that, what I have taken out of that in hindsight, is know where your personal and professional limit is. Choose your battles. Decide as much as you can which hills you're willing to die on and which, maybe you would rather not. I think that really will serve you well, and get very specific about your priorities. Be willing to let certain things go, maybe, but that comes with experience. It's not something that I knew in the moment. I think in hindsight, I will say I wish I had been a little less vulnerable. And so that is a very valuable piece of information that I now have about myself.
Let's break this down. That wasn't hyperbole. That wasn't a joke. That wasn't taken out of context.
That was Cameron Wild describing how they kept pressing a studio again and again and again until the studio gave up.
They didn't collaborate. They didn't find middle ground. The studio just surrendered.
They even said the first response was less than optimal. So instead of respecting that, they went harder.
And when put...
Oh, I think we all like when people go a little harder. No, but they're activists. That's the point. They're not true gamers. They're activists. That's what they're doing. And so, of course, they have no problem using these kinds of tactics, these scare tactics, and whatever they need to, because they're not gamers. Every single one of those people at Sweet Baby is an activist. When they're concerned more about, I'm part of a marginalized people, you can tell just the way they speak. They're not gamers, they're activists. And that is what we need less of in games now. Every single game comes out, seems like it's just chock full of political bullshit. And then you have these AAA games failing, and then they're, what's going on? Well, maybe because people are tired of it. Movies, TV shows, video games, comics, you name it, it is stuffed in there and it's in your face constantly. We use these things as an outlet to escape reality, but then we're going in there and then we're just being preached to. We're going into these games or movies and like, oh, if you're a white man, you're the source of all evil, and orange man bad, women have it so hard, and LGBTQ. You know, especially in games like, you know, where medieval settings, none of that should even be in there, but it is. But it is. We use these things as an escape from reality. We don't want to go from our lives, like me standing in front of a fucking 530-degree oven all day. I don't want to go from that, you know, and with real life, and then go into a game or whatever and be preached to about how I'm white, I'm the source of all fucking evil in the world. Or, oh my god, racism's bad, you shouldn't do racism. Like, and people are just tired of it. Sweet Baby Inc. doesn't care, though. They make lots and lots of money. Why do you think they don't have to let anyone go? Because by the time the poor companies, you know, the studio shut down, they've already made the money. They've already gotten their share. So they don't care. They'll drain whatever they can from one studio, move on to the next.
Pushing didn't work fast enough. They got emotional, not to connect, but to guilt, to manipulate.
Then Cameron said, I wish I had been less vulnerable. Not because they went too far, but because they resent needing to.
They didn't want dialogue, they wanted obedience, and they were pissed it took effort to get it.
And then came the kicker. People need to be willing to let things go. But they weren't talking about themselves, they were talking about the devs.
So let's call this what it is. Sweet Baby Inc. says they're collaborators. But when studios push back, they pressure, they push, and they break you down.
And now they've admitted it. In their own words, no spin, no plausible deniability.
So the next time Sweet Baby Inc. smiles at the camera and says,
I'm the CEO of Sweet Baby Inc., which, contrary to popular belief, is not a DEI company, but a narrative development company.
remember this moment.
Because what they call help was emotional pressure. It was brute force narrative control. It was breaking down the developers until they gave in.
This confirms everything we've warned you about. The fear, the manipulation, the coercive tactics, and the industry silence that lets it thrive.
But not anymore. You've heard it. They can't walk it back. And they can't pretend we imagined it.
So share it, clip it, blow it up.
Because the louder this gets, the harder it becomes for them to hide behind that smile.
And if you work in games, ask yourself, are you telling your story or are they?
Sweet Baby doesn't do what gamers think it does?
Well, now, that's verifiably false.
And then being met with a less than optimal response to that, and then having to say it again, and then again and again, and then having to say it again, and then again and again.
Yeah, they're activists. That's the whole shtick. They don't care about making good games. They don't care about the gamers. That's not what they're in this for. All they care about is representation. And it's not even good representation. I've said before, instead of going to some consultancy firm like Sweet Baby Inc. that's going to ruin your game, if you're a game developer, if you're in Hollywood or making comics or whatever, and you have staff, go ask your staff. If you want to make a black character, awesome. Instead of consulting them, go around to the black individuals in your company, ask them their stories, and take little pieces of them and put them into a character. So that way, that character feels more genuine. It feels real because now they have real world experiences thanks to the people who were used to make that character. Or if they're gay and you want a coming out story, or coming to terms with who you are, ask those people in your company. And then put pieces of them in that character, so that way it feels more genuine and more authentic and actually representative of that group of people that you're trying to represent. And of course, the fucking morons are going to hear me say this and still think like I'm some phobist or ism, because they're fucking Riris. But that's the easiest way. You don't need to hire a firm like Sweet Baby Inc. to write good characters. Use the resources you have. Talk to the people around you. Use their stories to create these characters. Not that hard. Coercion and harassment, threats of tortuous interference. SBI is going to get nailed. Oh yeah, by lawsuits unless they throw Wild under the bus. Oh, how do we do that? Well, we take Wild, okay, and we throw him under the bus. Throw him under. I think we need to throw Eric Cartman under the bus. How do we do that? We take Eric Cartman, okay, and we throw him under a bus. Even if they will only buy them, only if that will buy them time, though, because they'll never abandon these tactics until they're bankrupt or in prison. Come on, praise the Lord. We may finally see the demise. We're not. There's so many companies and so many morons who are willing to hire these freaking idiots. It's incredible. It's incredible. I could give you, I'm just a phobist and ism, and yet I can provide you a better fucking character. No matter what they are. Black, white, Hispanic, trans, gay, bi, it doesn't matter. I could provide you a better freaking character than what these people are. And all I would have to do is ask my audience. Because I know I have those kinds of individuals who watch me. So all I would have to do is reach out to them and say, hey, tell me your story. And I can create a character around that. Not that hard. That is how you get true representation. Not the crap that how the character is black. Well, what's their personality? What do you mean, what's their personality? They're black. But no, I'm just a phobist and ism. Because people are Riris. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.